The most unexpected and successful preventive technology.
Technology? You have to just love Stephen's use of language.
Which has been chronicled in the last couple of years is male circumcision.
If referring to an ancient sacrificial blood ritual to the gods as some kind of new technology isn't bizarre enough, Stephen is now going to try and convince us that a continent that circumcises its boys more than most of the world needs to circumcise more boys, because that's somehow the problem.
Interestingly enough, men who are circumcised have up to 60% lower levels of transmission that they personally experience from an HIV-positive woman, if that is the case, than men who are uncircumcised. And that is a very significant reduction in transmission.
Let's examine this for a moment. When you hear Stephen say 50 to 60%, these are intentionally misleading numbers. The actual result numbers are 2.84 and 1.29. To say 60%, you have to deceptively compare these small numbers to give a larger number that looks impressive. The most likely reason for this small difference was the fact that the newly circumcised men had to abstain from sex for at least 6 weeks, greatly reducing their exposure to the virus. It's also important to note that the circumcised men were given condoms after the procedure, but the intact men were not. There was no procedure. This is from a study that The Lancet refused to publish because they also weren't informing the men who had HIV of their HIV-positive status.
So you have a number of countries like Rwanda and Zambia and Swaziland, which are working very hard to provide safe surgical male circumcision.
Let's see if lack of circumcision is the problem, shall we? Well, that's odd. Looks like Rwanda and Swaziland actually have higher rates of HIV among circumcised men. How exactly is circumcising more of them going to help? Oh, that's right. It won't.
I remember on that trip I mentioned to Zambia that I was in the Copper Belt meeting with the health commissioner's staff, and we were sitting around the table and they were talking about their response to the new mines that were going to open up on the Copper Belt. And he said to me at one point, "Mr. Lewis, I think you should know that right here in Ndola, in our little ethnic group, the prevalence rates are very low because we're all circumcised."
If you think that has anything to do with it, you're a fool.
But in the ethnic groups surrounding, the prevalence rates are high because they're not circumcised.
I'll let this part speak for itself. The stage is all yours, Stephen.
There was some titter of laughter and gentle applause which resonated through the room. So I felt it was the appropriate moment to tell the crowd that I was circumcised, which I did. There followed what can only be described as an orgy of male bonding. I have never been so embraced and hugged so extravagantly by numbers of people simultaneously as they conveyed to me that they understood the importance of circumcision and recognized that it withstood the transmission of the virus.